Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live on this Friday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up, and if you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. I wanted to come on here live and first tell everybody to make sure you are ready and prepared. Hey there, Marcus. Glad you're here on this Friday night because, with the exception of a few places, they are telling us it's going to be really, really, really bitterly cold from Sunday afternoon all through next week. Now, don't do the panic stuff, but make sure you are ready and prepared in case you lose your power for a few hours or for a day or so. But it's supposed to get really, really bad starting Sunday afternoon. But tonight I want to come on here and just talk about what Dabo Sweeney said earlier. If you went looking for bread, Marcus, you might have picked the wrong time to go. And I never have understood why people do the panic shopping. You know, people here, especially in the South, now I don't watch the news, but I know most people do. And if they even mention ice or snow on the news, people go to the store and buy 27 loaves of bread. And I've never understood that because even if it snows, you're going to be back out the next day. You don't need 12 loaves of bread to be stuck at home for one day. But people do it anyway. But anyway, I wanted to talk about what Dabo Sweeney said earlier because I found it funny because, you know, I've kind of been on purpose, intentionally out of the loop on college football ever since the national championship game. I haven't even watched a highlight, listened to anybody, turned it on, read anything or anything because leading up to the national championship game, you know, those 8 or 9 days between the semifinals and the championship game, I've just been upset with college football because, you know, I talked about it here on the channel from day one that, you know, when you've got a sport with no rules and you all of a sudden have the bright idea to start paying players, I don't know how people thought that it wasn't going to go so south so quickly. I'll never understand how it wasn't blatantly obvious that when you let money take over a sport that has no rules, how you don't see that it's going to be totally detrimental. And it's become detrimental very, 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 very fast. And I've been so upset because to me, college football right now is more lost than lost. I don't know what word you could use to describe it, but lost ain't good enough. It's way past lost. I think it's broken beyond repair. And I think even if they hired a commissioner right now, it wouldn't do any good because I don't know if it's fixable. But Dabo Sweeney, who, you know, if you're a Clemson fan, you know this, but most people that don't support Clemson don't realize how intelligent Dabo Sweeney is. They just kind of tune him out for some reason. Most folks just dislike Dabo for whatever reason. But if you ever listen to the man talk, he's actually highly, 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 highly intelligent. And he is one person that if he decided to resign from Clemson and become the college football commissioner, he might could fix it only because Dabo is smart and Dabo makes decisions based on what's best for the sport, whereas everybody else makes decisions for what's best to put money in their pocket. Hey there, 1P. Glad to have you here. And hey there, Ima. Glad to have you here. And 1P, I think it's your first time being here. If it is, for whatever reason made you stop by the channel tonight, thank you very much. Feel free to give the video a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. And Ima, it's good to have you back. Been a couple of weeks since you've been on here, so it's good to have you back here on the channel. But if Dabo wanted to resign, he could fix it, but I don't think he's going to do that. But, you know, Dabo is the one coach who you can always say is never going to cheat. He's never going to do things the right way. He's never going to tell somebody one thing and do the opposite. That's not Dabo. Dabo keeps his word on everything he says, and he always has. Well, he says he has receipts. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole entire transcript, but if you want to watch it, you can get on YouTube and watch Dabo's press conference from earlier this afternoon, and he talks all about what all happened. But it all happened because of a player named Luke Farrelly, who was going to go to Ole Miss and then came to Clemson, signed with Clemson, and now he's going back to Ole Miss, which is 100% wrong. But tampering's been going on in college football forever. I can remember being in high school, people talking about tampering, and it was kind of like nobody ever tried to fix it because everybody's thought process was, well, everybody does it. Well, first of all, not everybody does it, but second of all, even if everybody does it, it's still wrong. Just because everybody does it doesn't all of a sudden mean it's not wrong. But now it's happened at Clemson, and Dabo won't put up with it. And he tells you it's not about this player, it's about rules. And if we're going to have a sport with no parameters and no rules, then there's no reason to call it a sport because you can cheat all you want to and there's no consequences. And that's basically what he said, and he's right. I've talked about that numerous times here on the channel. You know, when you have no rules, people can do whatever they want to because you can't stop them because there's no rules. But there's supposed to be a rule against tampering. But every single time people say somebody tampered, it just gets kind of brushed by the wayside and nothing gets done about it. But Dabo has receipts this time, and he knows exactly what happened when. And I promise you, if something doesn't happen, Dabo Sweeney will say something because it's 100% wrong. And, you know, you can't do it. And Ole Miss pretty much uses the excuse of, well, people do it to us. Well, that doesn't mean that you can go back and do it to somebody else. Just because somebody does it to you doesn't make it okay to go back and do it to somebody else. Hey there, Jacob. Glad to have you here. And you had to tell me your real name again. You told me, and I just cannot remember it. And every time you come on here, every couple of weeks, I see your name, and I'm like, her name's not Ima. But you told me your name, and I'm sorry. I just cannot remember. But Jacob, glad to have you here on this Friday night. But basically what Dabo was saying is, we're making college football now like the NFL. And they've pretty much made college football like the NFL in every way possible, with the exception of this tampering. Because if you're in the NFL, if you play for the Falcons, if the 49ers call you and say, hey, if you come play for us tomorrow, we'll double your contract. You can't go back and tell your Falcons teammates and coaches, sorry, guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to San Fran. They're doubling my pay because you're on the Falcons roster. Well, in college football, once you're on a team's roster and you're there and you're not in the portal, you can't all of a sudden say, well, I'm leaving, think I'll go here. You can't do that. And if you do that only because a coach called you and offered you pay you more money, that's wrong. But the funny part is, I don't think Luke Farrelly knows and understands that Clemson's different, Dabo's different. They're not going to do anybody dirty if they don't do that. And Luke Farrelly pretty much came to Clemson and said, hey, if y'all double my pay and double my years on my contract, I'll do everything that you want me to do to help you turn Ole Miss in. And Clemson said, no, we're not doing that. The contract we gave you is the contract you get. It's not changing. So then Farrelly decided, hey, I'm going to Ole Miss. But according to the Ole Miss AD and the Ole Miss general manager, this had nothing to do with them. It was all Pete Golding, because Pete Golding is going to do what Pete Golding wants to do. And that's wrong as well if he's doing things that the AD and general manager don't know about. But I encourage you to go watch the entire Dabo press conference because it's very, very good because he pretty much tells you exactly minute by minute, day by day, hour by hour what happened. And that's why I think something might actually happen with this because, the NCAA can't say, well, we'll look into it and it take them 3 years or 4 years. All they got to do is get a phone or a tablet and look it up and it won't take an hour and a half. If it's not tampering, then say, hey, it's not tampering. If it is tampering, then don't say, well, it's tampering, but we're not going to punish them. Because if you're not going to punish somebody for blatantly breaking the rules, then why is the rule even there in the first place? And I was wondering if you were there, Jacob, so I'm glad you're listening to me while you watch wrestling. Hopefully tonight's show will be very, very good. I know most shows this weekend have already been canceled or postponed altogether because of the impending inclement weather. But, maybe I'm the only one, but, something has to happen for college football to turn the corner because, as I said, it's more lost than lost. I mean, it's way out there. And, it's not going to change anytime soon unless Dabo himself stops it because the issue is the people that are in charge of college football aren't looking at this and saying, what can I do to better the sport? They're looking at it and saying, how can I make more money? And as long as they're letting money make decisions for them, nothing's going to change. You can't make a decision for the betterment of a sport or anything based on how much money you're going to make. You've got to make the decision based on the players or based on the actual sport, not based on how much money you're going to make. Because if you do it for the betterment of the sport, you may not make any extra money, but the sport will get better long term. But everybody in charge is looking on how they can make more money, not how they can make the sport better. But college football is more lost than lost, and I've said this numerous times here on the channel ever since the players started getting paid. If they don't put a stop to it and do it fast, college football is going to be dead and gone by 2030. First of all, because now you're making decisions based on money, and even though these programs have boosters, even boosters are eventually going to go broke and be out of money. They're not going to be able to give their favorite team $300-400 million every year forever. Eventually, that money's going to go dry. And then what happens? You're gone. So if they don't put a cap on this and do it quickly, college football is going to be dead and gone in 5 years. But maybe I'm the only one, but I've just been out of the loop because I just hate to see a sport that I grew up loving all of a sudden be completely different than anything I grew up watching. I can remember falling in love with college football on Saturdays when you didn't have college football on 25 channels and you had a Jefferson Pilot, and every week at noon on Jefferson Pilot, at least where I grew up at, you had Steve Martin, Richard Doc Walker, and Mike Hogwood doing ACC football. Pre-game show at 11:30, and the kickoff was always about 12:10. This was back in the days when the ACC had 9 teams. And I can remember Ron Franklin on ESPN and Mike Patrick on ESPN. And I can remember Eli Gold on CBS and Keith Jackson on ABC. I grew up loving college football. I can remember Sean McDonough doing college baseball for CBS back in the early to mid 90s before he went to ESPN. That's how long I've been watching college athletics. And to see what it has turned into is absolutely horrendous. But if I'm the only one feeling this way, please let me know. But I've just been completely upset with college football. I feel like it's wrong to all of a sudden say, well, let's look at, what Clemson's going to do next year at quarterback. Because to me, does that matter right now? Yes, short term. But long term, what happens this year, it might matter this year. But long term, it doesn't matter because if we don't get this fixed and fixed in a hurry, there's going to be no college football to worry about in the next 5 years. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I was diagnosed as a kleptomaniac. I'm taking something for it. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of three.